Welcome to the Bear Cave. Today, we're going to be doing our free agency tiers for the Chicago Bears. If you want weekly Bears content, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know who you think the Bears are going to be taking at 10 in the NFL draft. Let's get started. Dobbs, let's start out with maybe one of the easiest ones. I feel like the Joe Tooney trade is in the S tier.
Without a doubt. And you know what? If Joe Tooney isn't in the S tier, then I don't know what is. And we got to start out with a bang. I mean, and again, anyone who wants to debate this, I don't know how you where we even start, because I don't know where you would start from your
Right.
perspective if you were debating against this. Leave a comment if you want to. We're open to discussion. But Joe Tooney S tier, you could argue the best guard in the league. This is and the fact that he's a better pass blocker and he still is an amazing run blocker. And go figure, the Bears' biggest problem, we need to protect Caleb. We got to give Caleb that confidence. Hunter, I don't see how you can go any other angle. This has got to be S tier, and there's just no two ways about it.
I guess you could argue that like he's on the last year of his deal. He's going to be 32 this year, I believe. You had to trade draft capital for him, but at the end of the day, this is like an all-pro Hall of Fame guard who's won, I believe, 4 Super Bowls now. Like he knows what it's like to be part of a winning team. And with how bad the Bears interior was last year, it was well worth the trade, even if he's only here 1 year. Now, I do think they will probably extend him, give him a couple more years. I'm okay riding out Tooney until he falls apart, like just because of the player he's been. And I feel like there was probably teams who were like, damn, I didn't know Tooney was available like that. There was probably that, like the trade I always think about, and it's not NFL, it's NBA. Like when Tyrese Halliburton got traded from the Kings to the Pacers, like when it happened, I was like, I bet you a ton of teams didn't even know he was available. And that's how I felt about the Tooney trade. But I will say, I did tweet this year prior to the season being over that I believe Trey Smith was going to be back and that Tooney got dealt. Now, I didn't think it was going to be to the Bears. I just felt like that would made the most logical sense for the Chiefs. So crystal balled it a little bit, but Tooney
You did crystal ball it.
Yeah, I crystal balled it. So Tooney in the S tier. Let's move to the other guard spot. We have Jonah Jackson. Got him from a 6-year or 6th round pick, and we got him from the Rams. It was a 2025. It was 2025 6-rounder. They Bears extended him 1 year. Before the extension, there was no guaranteed money after this year, I believe. But with the extension, there is money in 2026. Now, I like the upside of Jonah Jackson. What scares me is the injury, and what I really didn't like was the extension. Like, if he's playing well into the year, like if he's playing well this year, extend him then. You haven't seen him take a snap for your team. And I understand you're, I guess, securing the long-term play here, but I just get scared, especially with a guy with injury history who hasn't been at the top of his game since he left the Lions.
Well, no, absolutely. And
So, like, I feel like this is like it's kind of the middle of the road because it's got so many variables.
no, well, again, let me, I have a lot to say on this. Let me get into it. Also, my apologies. If my cat sneaks into camera here, Hunter, my cat's so excited about the Joe Tooney trade that she literally she's relentless right now. She won't, she jumped on my lap. I'm trying to push her away. She won't give up, but she said,
I
Joe
wouldn't
Tooney has
be.
no argument, I suppose, is what she's trying to say.
I would not blame her. I'd have all my paws in the air if I was a cat.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But look, jokes aside, and to Jonah, I think here's my thing is what I'll say is I'm with you 100% that number one, I am look, there's no easy way to say it. I am concerned bad about the money that now we have invested, given to your point, like we're now at the 2 years off of the best year of his career. And when you were as injured as he was last year, and then you can't find your way back to the rotation off the injuries, like, yeah, that's concerning, right? And you know what, when you're given then all of a sudden the highest paid guard in the league, like, yeah, it's a hard sell. But I think here's the thing we understand about it is, look, it's a sacrifice for the future to get something done now, right? Because as far as I understand, Hunter, it was that conversion had to be made in order to get Drew Dalman and a few other new Bears on the roster. And if we didn't get Drew Dalman, honestly, I would be even less of a right, the whole Jonah Jackson trade. So I think it's like, yeah, I really don't like the money. And yeah, him being the highest paid guard in the league is like off that production.
Not this
last
year though, right? It would be next
Right.
year.
Well, no,
Just his
next
cap
year.
hit.
But
Yeah.
we know that he will be. That is, it's concerning. Especially again, if we get similar production to what it was last year, well, then it looks
Then it's a
horrible.
bad look. Yeah.
Yeah, then it's really bad.
I
But
do think you can. I think if they do cut him next year, it is only a $7 million cap hit. So they do have a way out. From my understanding, I could be wrong, but that is what I was reading. So, but I agree, Dobbs. I mean, to kind of go off that, like, I think this move, the trade for Jonah Jackson didn't make as much sense as it did until they got the trade for Tooney, if that makes sense, right? Like, Jackson himself is not the end all be all to the move. The fact that you added Tooney and the fact that you added Drew Dahlman, and then the reality is Jackson at the floor is probably your worst offensive lineman. Like, that's not bad because we know Braxton Jones is average. So
I would agree with that.
I do think the upside for Jonah Jackson is there. My issue is the extension before you've seen him play. And obviously, this is a Ben call because he played with them and made him a Pro Bowl alternate, I believe. But it's still to the point of like, I guess you could put it like this: Ryan Poles really doesn't have a choice. Like, he had to rebuild the interior offensive line, and Ben Johnson has worked with probably the best option for them for the price.
No, I would agree with that. And and to your point about like how you have to get it done. Well, no, that's the thing, Hunter. Like sometimes you just got to get it done. And here's what I would say too. Let's say worst case scenario, that it doesn't work out, and that it was right. It's bad, and he doesn't play a lot, and they do have to cut him next year. Well, we still have Drew Dahlman on the roster, and like we said
Yeah.
too, the Bears are going to address this position in the draft. I would very heavily assume. I mean, I can't guarantee anything. We very much can assume though that we will be getting depth in the position group in the draft at the tackle spot and the guard spot. So it's kind of like worst case scenario, we're pivoting and we're forced to pivot here shortly. But the final point I would make and the biggest point is that you can definitely spend your money in way worse ways. We spent the money to make something big happen for the whole of the most important position group in all of football, not only on right just for the Bears in all of football. And you had to do it. There are way worse ways you could spend your money. We could have dropped tons of money on non-premium positions, and even if they're playing really good, if they don't live up to all the way the contract, it looks way worse. Like all things considered, Hunter, it's far from the worst way they could have spent the money, even if things go all bad in the sense of Jonah Jackson himself, because there's so many outs, even if that's the case.
I'm gonna put Jonah Jackson in the B category just because there's so much upside, but there's also a lot of downside. Next, let's talk about Drew Dahlman, who, here's my thing. I was thinking about putting him in the S tier, and it's not because of what he is as a player, right? Like, the reality is like Drew Dahlman is not the best center in the league, but he's one of the best, right? Like, he's a top 5, top 7 center in the league. The position has been so horrifically bad for the Bears for the last couple of years. And the only reason he made it to free agency is because the Falcons have a really good offensive line. They paid Caleb McGarry, they paid Jake Matthews, they have Matthew Bergeron, they have Chris Lindstrom, and their backup center is actually pretty. And B, the reason he made it is their backup center was actually played pretty well when Dahlman was out. Now, I don't think that's a discredit to Dahlman. I just think that is a credit to the Falcons front office and being able to scout the position. Now, with that being said, Dahlman is probably like an A signing because of the weakness on the interior. But the fact of it's going to take a lot off Caleb Williams' shoulders because of the fact of he knows that he's a very smart player. So he knows how to make calls at the line. He's going to be paired next to Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson and Darnell Wright and Braxton Jones. Like, he just makes the line so much better that him coming to the Bears really tied everything they were trying to do and completed the rebuild of the interior. So I think because of the player he is and what he represents for the Bears, it is an S tier signing.
Well, and might I add to Hunter, you know, getting him for cheaper than alleged
Yes.
was then that he wanted to come play for the Bears, and you got him for cheaper than his highest value was. That's for me what pushes it to S tier because that's something new, right? Not only a guy for a super premium position group, but someone who, right, like could have demanded way more money
Yeah.
that didn't to come to the Bears. Not that that's never happened, but like that's right relative to recency. That's new. That's encouraging more than anything.
It is new. It's very
super
encouraging.
encouraging to the Ben Johnson vision. You got to have a good feeling about how these meetings are going. You got to have a good feeling about how Ben Johnson is explaining his vision to everyone that's coming into the building. I mean, look, Hunter, to me, it's an S tier signing. And like you said, you know, he forget top 7. He is a top 5 center in the league. You can make a debate. He's top 4, top 3 if you want. So look, it's to me, it's S tier. You take care of the line. We're going to keep repeating it. I don't care. It's the mantra.
Take care of the line. You'll be just fine.
You know, not just this season. This is the mantra going forward. If the Bears make this, if we get to keep saying this, it is only a matter of time before the Bears start actually making that real progress that we have thought that they were going to make for so long. But you know what, Hunter? We got fooled because they weren't taking care of the line.
Nope.
That's why we weren't doing just fine.
Garbage bin shopping.
Yeah, no more. Yeah, no more garbage bin
shopping.
No
more garbage bin shopping.
Bulls premium shopping.
They better address this in the draft. Like they cannot go strictly skill positions. Like I'm okay with taking a running back with one of the first 4 picks, even if Genty's there at 10. But you have to take a tackle, a guard, or something within the 2nd round or 3rd round. I guess we'll kind of go based off importance of the player here. We have Dayo Odeyingbo for $16 million a year. It is, I believe, like 32 mils guaranteed. I could be wrong. Check the numbers, but basically only 2 years are guaranteed. It's about 16 mil a year. It's not like a super high end contract. It's not a low end contract. You're banking on potential. This was such a meh signing to me. Like, I understand it, and I kind of feel like that's why it's got to go. Listen, I think it should be in B tier. I'm okay with a C tier though. Like, what are you thinking?
This is one where I do wish, you know, we kind of you took the words out of my mouth basically. Like I was gonna say it's tough because I really do wish there was like a B-/C+ tier because I don't think it's B and I also don't think it's C. He kind of meshes somewhere really nice.
What do you? I guess we'll frame it like this. If the Bears didn't make this signing, there would be a lot of talk about how the edge position is a drastic, crippling need for the Bears. And I think why I think maybe I would go B is because he makes it so they don't have to take edge at 10.
No, I would agree with that. And like more than anything, even if again, like, okay, yes, we're taking him off potential and we want him to develop more in the Bears uniform. Well, even if he doesn't, we have a guy that produces at a standard level as a pass rusher, at a standard level as a run defender. And if anything, bottom like right, no improvement is made. Well, we still have a good depth piece and a guy that's part of the rotation. So as far as that's concerned, Hunter, we take care of the line.
We'll be just fine.
Lock him in at B. Hunter. You know what?
Put it on a fucking shirt.
Put it on a shirt. We take care of the line. We'll be just fine. You might be onto something, Hunter.
Wait, hold on.
Put that
the
on
Bear Cave shirts. Yeah, I kind of like that. Hold on, let me think of something.
Yeah, let's let him cook. Let him cook.
Okay, I'm gonna let you pick the next one because I have a very strong opinion about this, but I want to hear yours first. Olamide Zaccheaus.
Because you remember, Hunter, look, behind the scenes type of shit for a second. You remember when we were doing our
mock off seasons?
Yeah, we were doing I believe it was the second one where I was like, because we were really because everyone who didn't listen to that, we were really big on get MVS in a Bears uniform.
This is the most underrated Bears signing of the offseason.
No,
this one got me hyped.
No, because you remember, I was like, you know what though, Hunter? I was like, if they could get Zaccheaus on a good deal, like I could see that being higher upside than MVS.
I can't believe he only signed for 1.5 mil.
Well, we thought for sure he was going back to the Commanders, and that's actually why, to the point, Hunter was the one who, and I don't blame him. We kind of dismissed it because it was like, Well,
No way.
that's like dreamland. Yeah, it was like that's dream stuff because there's no way with the connection he had towards the end of the season with Jane Daniels that they don't bring him back on a cheap deal themselves, and he would want to go there because right, like yeah, you went to a team that was in the NFC Championship and you can re-sign there. Like there'd be no reason not to, but for whatever reason, through the works that we don't understand, he ends up in a Bears uniform that you got, and you gotta love it, Hunter. Like
For 1.5 mil?
like
What?
you gotta love it. Yeah, it makes
Listen.
look. I don't know what he did. I don't know how he didn't get a negotiation back in that Commander's building, or moreover, what the Bears did to convince him to come to the Bears over
Ben
the team
Johnson.
that's just an NFC. But that's what I'm saying is if it's really a Ben Johnson work, you have to be ecstatic either way. And that's no discredit. Again, no discredit to the Bears. It's just like when you're on a team that was just an NFC Championship, and you had if there was an offer on the table, which again we don't know, it's that's tough ask to not re-sign that. But
I think Olamide Zaccheaus, to me, is an A tier signing, not an A player. Let's get that very, very clear. But after Rome Odunze and DJ Moore, you have Tyler Scott, who basically didn't see the field last year outside of special teams. You have Samori Toure, John Jackson. Like it gets barren. And I think Zaccheaus, while he's basically like, if he could put up 500 yards for you, that's wide receiver 3. And that's what he did last year. And with the way he plays, he is a good blocker. And he fights for the extra yards. That is exactly what Ben Johnson wants. And I can see him being utilized in a lot of different fashions. This, I think, was probably the most underrated signing of the offseason for the Bears. And I'm willing to put him in the A tier. I don't know if you think that's too high or how you feel about it, but
no, that's what I was
know.
thinking too.
Okay.
No, I'm glad we're on the same page because when you said you had strong feelings about it, I was like, I hope we're not thinking like opposite. But
no,
the feeling because I remember when we were doing our discussions, you were on board with it. We just thought it wasn't very likely.
I didn't think we could afford him. I thought he was going to get like a 3-year, like $20 million deal. Like that Tutu Atwell got 1 year, 10 mil. Like that's a realistic thing for these wide receivers now, these wide receiver 3s. So yeah, I don't know.
No, I was gonna say, it's kind of like I like to pull them out the woodworks every once in a while. Those Madden franchise comparisons. It's like when you're doing a Madden franchise back in the day, and you're like, you get like an 80 overall free agent that was going to sign for like $2 million. He's got the star dev, and you're like, wait, like 79 overall. You're like, wait a minute, we can get him on the roster, like to fill up a need. Like, let me get him right now. But like, here's what I'll say: 200 jokes aside, look, he only started 6 games last year, and a big majority of the production came in the 6 games he started. And 506 yards, the 3 tuds in the 6, right? Not all in, but in 6 started games. Like, you got to feel fantastic about that, assuming he will start 17 games this year or as many. Hopefully he's healthy for all 17. But you get my point. I mean, much more chance for production in what we would consider a top 3 offensive system in the league. I mean, right? It's different when you're making a transition from the Lions to but the system is still the same. I mean, there should be a lot of opportunity for Olamide to get the ball. There should be a lot of chance for him to have more than anything the best year of his career. You have to be ecstatic if you're a Bears fan about this. On the 1.5 million,
such a steal. Also, I just want to point out for the small. This has nothing to do with these. I just want to take kind of a victory lap and not like we had haters coming at us, but just in the general Bears community talk about you have to re-sign Tevin Jenkins. He got a 1-year deal for 3.5 mil. That is the league's opinion on him, and he was far too injured to be playing. I would much rather have Olamide Zaccheaus for 1.5 mil than, well, actually, not gonna lie. If Tevin Jenkins could come here for 3 mil and be depth, I'd be okay with it. I think he needed a fresh start. Anyway, I think Olamide Zaccheaus well worth the money. Another one that I'm a little bit confused on, Dobbs, and I don't know where to put him because I'm pretty high on the signing as well, is Devin Duvernay. Like, he is a special teams player that can provide a lot. He can be a wide receiver for, like, he was a really good pickup in my opinion. Do I go as far as A tier? I don't know. I want to see the impact on special teams, but he's definitely more in the B tier. It was a good signing. Like, I actually really like the signing.
No, I would agree. I mean, look, obviously it's been at this point, it's been a couple, well, you can even say a few since the best year of his career with the returns. But you know what? It's a thing where the opportunity wasn't the same, especially in Jacksonville, right? Things just, Jacksonville just had a mess of a year last year. Fresh start, fresh opportunity. And if anything, you're getting a guy who's for sure top, top five, top 10 returner, even at this point in his career. So it's a big jump from what we've had. I mean, the Bears have had nightmares we won't go back to in the return game in recent
Number
years.
12. We don't speak his name. He's gone now. Well, actually, you get to watch him all the time now.
You can't, like we
Trust your franchise.
you can't make it up. I think
never
he's
escape Velus Jones Jr.
Yeah, practice squad depth. I don't know what to say.
He's a running back, dude. He's a running back.
You know what? Can Kellen Moore cook? All right, look though, but
low key, he may be revived in New Orleans.
That's a funny that was funny. That is, and if you're right, I might have to cop the jersey. But look, jokes aside, and back to Duvernay. I think look, Bears fans should be ecstatic. You're talking about a 2-time Pro Bowl, 1-time All-Pro guy, a guy who's only been in the league for 5 years. And yes, like we kind of highlighted initially, it hasn't been the best production in the last couple years. But I would say the opportunities have dipped. It hasn't, right? In Jacksonville last year was just a nightmare season. It is what it is. You get a fresh start on the Bears.
Nightmare in Jacksonville.
Just the nightmare in Jacksonville. So you get a fresh opportunity in a great up-and-coming environment. If you're Devin Duvernay, you got to feel like you're going to come in and take advantage of this opportunity. And if he's even a fraction better than the nightmare return game that the Bears have had over the last
it's been bad
2 or 3 seasons, I mean, you're going to come in and a lot of people are going to be very refreshed. Is how
next. So you're saying next Devin Hester?
You know what? Yeah, let's ride. You got to speak into existence, right, Hunter? You can't be negative about it.
So I put him in the B tier. These next two we can kind of skim through. Durham Smythe, they signed him pretty early. I kind of got him in the C tier. I mean, like he's not a bad signing. I hope he's tight end 3. If he's tight end 2, not really a fan. I don't necessarily understand what Durham Smythe does well. Like I understand he's probably like a willing player and like a blocker, but I don't know.
He's that catch you lacking option,
doesn't get me excited.
No, that's just what he is. He's that catch you lacking option who is not going to see the field a lot, but when he's out there, maybe you kind of don't account for him. He gets lost in the formation. You leak him out to the flat. You throw him on a drag. That's just you throw him on a little curl, a little hook. And that's just his job. And yeah, to be a solid sound blocker. I mean, and just to clarify, I'm sorry, I misheard. What tier did you have him in?
I put him in C, which is like the second from the lowest. Yeah.
No, we're in agreement. Again, it's nothing against Durham Smythe. It's just that it doesn't move much. It also was necessary. So yeah, I feel like
it's okay. It just doesn't give me hype. Yeah.
Someone had to come in and fill the need. It's Durham Smythe. And it just is what it is.
60-year-old Mercedes Lewis didn't want to come back, I guess. Where would you put Nick McCloud?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to put this on you. I'm not.
I mean, here's what this one is one of those ones where, I mean, again,
it has to be a camp body depth signing.
I mean, yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Like, I mean,
so we can put him with Smythe. Because, like, I can't. Like, I'm not going to be mad at my team for signing this when he's very obviously not going to be competing for a starting position or even a backup,
Yeah, I mean, okay, here's what's the two? So there's
C and D. It's C and D.
I mean, I think, and again, nothing against Nick McCloud. It's just this has to be a D signing in the grand scope of things. I mean, he's played 48 games. He's only started in 16 of them, right? Last year in San Francisco, didn't start any of them. And yeah, if anything, you know what I'll say about this is it's like this is more of a special teams. You're feeling a special teams role. And I guess from that perspective, then you could argue like, is it a C signing? Because it is still something that he will probably see the field for special teams. And if not, like you said, at worst, it's a camp body. I mean, but I guess that's kind of my thing is it's like someone probably has to fill the D tier.
See, here's my
like it feels like Nick McCloud's responsibility. Nothing against him. I hope he has the best year of his career in Chicago. I just and he proves us wrong. But as of right now,
I agree. I think my thing is Dobbs. Like, this really doesn't have much to do with like McLeod himself. Now, obviously, if he's a better player, be a better grade, but it's just kind of like you don't move any needle in any direction for me. So it's kind of like there's no like praise that should be given to the Chicago Bears for signing Nick McLeod. So it's kind of like it's whatever, you know? It's not bad, but it's not. Show me one person excited about this. Show me one person excited about this signing.
Shouts to Nick McLeod's family. I know they were celebrating. But again, you know what? Hey, you know what? If he fills a special teams role, Hunter, and he can be a productive special teamer, you know what? I'm celebrating. You know what?
Maybe
I'll be the lone soldier. You know,
a horrible comparison, but it's like, like, have you ever rode? You've rode in the car with friends, and like, there's just one person who like he never takes the aux or anything like that. And it's probably because his music is not like made for the aux, but you can appreciate that they know that. I think that's what the Nick McLeod thing is. It's like everyone should appreciate the fact that no one's getting hype over this but it's kind of like, I also appreciate the fact that like no one's trying to be like, this is a good signing. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I appreciate that everyone understands what this is.
No, exactly. And again, and I think, and look, Nick McLeod knows what it is, right? He's going to come in, try to fill that role and try to get that special teams job and provide depth, heavy depth at that. Or if you end up making the final, you're going to be third string, fourth string. But like, you know what? You could be a productive special teamer, and that's the base of what the expectation is, and you know that coming in. You know what? I'll be the lone soldier, Hunter. I'm happy about it. If that's what ends up happening, I'm happy about it.
There's going to be someone who is like way too into like Nick McLeod tape. And he's like, well, you missed this whole season where he was laying down blocks on kickoffs. I don't care. I personally don't care. Grady Jarrett. Where should we put him? I like it as here's my thing. I like it as an A tier signing. And my reason being is I don't think they had that lead by example type player on the defensive line. Someone who has been so accomplished. Yes, you could argue Montez Sweat is a good player, but he has not had the career that Grady Jarrett has. He has been a staple for the Atlanta Falcons for the last 10 years. I think regardless if he's not the same player as he was, and the A tier is not based off him as his play last year, it's more the fact of what he brings to the team, the depth he also provides. Well, he's a starter, but I'm saying like how the depth now looks for the defensive tackle position, and his contract isn't too bad. So I really like the signing. I think that one really got me hype, especially after Deo.
Well, no, to your point, Hunter. Well, now when you push Billings to being depth, yeah, well, all of a sudden the depth of that group does look a lot better. I will say this. I would completely understand anybody that would say, A might be okay. They're like, oh, well, I think A is pushing it a little bit, but it has to be A or B, regardless of how you feel about it. I'm fine with A. I'm also fine with B. But the bottom line about it is it was a sign that had to happen. Yes, I am in, the camp of people that are like, okay, maybe it's a little bit much for Grady Jarrett at this point of his career, but I'm with you. And also, then you have to look at it from the perspective of they needed someone to fill that role. They needed the lead by example guy. You need desperately to fill that position group. And if somehow we've seen it happen with other players, why not Grady? If he can kind of have a resurgence, that late career resurgence where, you come back, you finally start getting off your, and it's, again, is it likely? Not necessarily, but it's possible that he has that late career resurgence and he starts to, that look 15%, 10% better than last year.
Yep.
And you can build off that. And now all of a sudden you feed off of the other guys and the D line around you. Because, no discredit to them boys, but the Falcons D line was kind of
he was like the one
like they're
outside of Matthew Judon, who
they're not a very strong unit. So and all of a sudden the Bears, you got some up and comers. We got up and comers. You got Montez now you can feed off. Like it looks like a lot better situation for Grady. So if you look at it from that perspective, and he can have that resurgence in that type of environment.
You can even make the same argument for Deo. Like the Colts had a good D line, but people were injured. People get suspended. The Colts were all up in the air last year. So that can go for that too. But yes, I agree with the A tier for Jarrett.
Yeah, I'm with you. Look, A or B, I'm happy with either, but it has to be one of the two. And if we go in A, I'm ready to lock it in.
Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been our 2025 Bears free agency tiers. If you like the video, Leave us a like. Let us know in the comments who you think the Bears will draft at 10. And be sure to subscribe to the Bear Cave for more weekly content.